we have a program about immigration, and I want to dedicate it to all the refugees in the world and all the immigrants who are just looking for some safety and a place to live a nice life. And I would like to welcome my friends Sean Cleland and Jesse Langen here to the stage with me. I'm starting with a traditional song, and I'm singing it in the traditional style called Shanos, which is unaccompanied. And you'll get the story, because my diction is good. Here we go. Farewell to the groves of shillelagh and shamrock. Farewell to the girls of old Ireland all round. May their hearts be as merry as ever I would wish them, when far away on the ocean I'm bound. My mother is old and my father quite feeble. To leave their own country, it grieves them full sore. Oh, the tears down their cheeks, in great drops they are rolling, to think they must die upon a foreign shore. But what matters to me where my bones may be buried, if in peace and contentment I can spend my life? Oh, the green fields of Canada, they're daily a-blooming. There I'll find an end to my misery and strife. Farewell to the dances in homes now deserted, where tips struck the lightning in splanks from the floor. The paving and crigging of hobnails on flagstones, the tears of the old folks and shouts of encore. For the landlords and bailiffs in vile combination have forced us from Hearthstone and Homestead away. May the Crowbar Brigade all be doomed to damnation when we're on the green fields of America. Thank you. Well, once people got here, they were searching for work, and they weren't very welcome. And I'm sure there are many immigrants for the first time coming to this country don't feel very welcome. But there's a famous old phrase called "No Irish Need Apply," and this song has that refrain in it several times. So I hope that you will sing it. No Irish need apply. I don't know if that's the key. You want to try that? No Irish need apply. You got it. You'll hear when it comes. This is a music hall song. It was written by a man named John Poole, and he wrote it to kind of make fun of the Irish, but they kind of liked it. And it was made famous by a really great vaudeville performer of the day, Tony Pastor. I'm a decent boy just landed from the town of Ballyfed. I want a situation, yes, I want it very bad. I have seen employment advertised, it's just the thing, says I. But the dirty spalpeen ended with, no Irish need apply. Oh, says I, well that's an insult, but to get the place I'll try. So I went to see this blackguard with his no Irish need apply. Some do count it a misfortune to be christened Pat or Dan, but to me it is an honor to be born an Irishman. Well, I started out to find the house, I found it mighty soon. There I found the old man seated, he was reading the Tribune. When I told him what I came for, then he in a rage did fly. He says, "You are a Paddy, and no Irish need apply." Well, he gets me danderizing, and I'd like to black his eye to tell an Irish gentleman no Irish need apply. Some do count it a misfortune to be christened Pater Dan, but to me it is an honor to be born an Irishman. Well, I couldn't stand it longer, so a hold of him I took, and I gave him such a welting as he'd get at Donnybrook. He hollered, "Mail you murther," and a getaway to try, and he swore he'd never write again. No Irish need apply. Well, he made a big apology. I bid him then goodbye, saying when next you want a beating right, no Irish need apply. Some do count it a misfortune to be christened Pater Dan, but to me it is an honor to be born an Irishman. Thank you very much. I just saw a former dear student. Hello. Okay, so moving along. So he didn't get that job, but of course they were hired to work grunt labor on the railroads all across the world. And I don't know if you've seen the pictures from here, even in Chicago. In the summer, they had big baskets that they carried to have smoke go in their faces all the time so the mosquitoes wouldn't bite them. Isn't that horrible? Anyway, so this is Paddy Works on the Railway. In 1841, me corduroy breeches I put on, me corduroy breeches I put on, to work upon the railway, the railway. I'm weary of the railway, poor Paddy works on the railway. In 1843, I broke me shovel across me knee, and I went to work for the company on the Leeds and Selby Railway. I was wearing corduroy breeches, digging ditches, pulling switches, dodging hitches. I was working on the railway. In 1844, I landed on the Liverpool shore. Me belly was empty, my hands were raw from working on the railway, the railway. I'm weary of the railway, poor Paddy works on the railway. I was wearing corduroy breeches, digging ditches, pulling switches, dodging hitches. I was working on the railway. Sean is amused by my labor on the railway. In 1847, poor Paddy was thinking of going to heaven. Poor Paddy was thinking of going to heaven to work upon the railway, the railway. Sing it with me, I'm weary. I'm weary of the railway, poor Paddy works on the railway. I was wearing corduroy breeches, digging ditches, pulling switches, dodging hitches. I was working on the railway. there were lots of mines in Philadelphia, outside Philadelphia in those beautiful mountains. And so a lot of the people, actually from everywhere, not just the Irish people, but the Irish people had been oppressed, sorely oppressed by England. And so they weren't educated, they weren't skilled miners like the people from Wales and the people from England. They were grunt mine laborers, and the children were set to work on these planks. And the coal would go by and they would pick them up and sort them, the little tiny pieces of coal. And of course they got terrible finger diseases. But a breaker, you're going to hear the word breaker several times, and the breaker is the big building where the coal is sorted and prepared for sale. It's not the actual mine. So here's a sort of a naive, anonymous poem. There came to this country a short time ago a poor Irish woman from the county Mayo. She had but one son, and his age was 8, and the boss gave him work picking slate. The first day at the breaker, the boys all did swear, for poor little Mike was the youngest lad there. They asked him his age. Says he, I'm just 8. So they named him Mickey Pickslate. One day in the winter, 7 below, poor little Mike was sifting the coal. He tripped on a plank that was carelessly placed, and in the rolls he fell to his fate. His body so mangled, it's sad for to say, the poor little fellow, he soon passed away. His mother, demented, still lingers and waits for her poor little Mickey Pickslate. Here's a story of, it's kind of a music hall song too, but I don't know the provenance of this song. But it's when the breaker starts up full time, so the laborers all around, and they're probably in the company town paying rent to the guy who isn't paying them to mine right at the time, and talking to each other about this. This is when the breaker starts up full time. Our troubles are o'er, Mrs. Murphy. The Dutchman next door tells me straight. The mines will start first thing on Monday. That's what he tells me at any rate. Sure, the boss, he says, told him this morning when he was about entering the mine that the coal is quite scarce around Philly. So the rumor is work full time, and it's sure if the news be true, me store bill's the first thing I'll pay. A stuffed parlor suit and a lounge I will buy, and an organ for bridging, hooray! Me calico shirt I will throw in the dirt, in me silk shirt one I cut to shine. When we get the advance, we'll put Shanos in pants when the breaker starts up full time. I'll ne'er stick me fist in a wash tub. The Chinaman, he'll have me pay. I'll ne'er pick a coal off the dirt bank. I'll buy everything ready-made. We'll dress up our children like fairies and build up a house big and fine. And we'll move away from the hungries when the breaker starts up full time. And it's sure if the news be true, me store bill's the first thing I'll pay. A stuffed parlor suit and a lounge I will buy, and an organ for Bridgie, hooray! Me calico shirt I will throw in the dirt, in me silk shirt one I cut to shine. When we get the advance, we'll put Shanos in pants when the breaker starts up full time. When we get the advance, we'll put Shanos in pants when the breaker starts up full time. Thank you. Nice to be able to put your kid in pants after all that. So yesterday when I was driving in the car, I heard an interview of a young woman from Afghanistan who had been taken in Ireland. And she was talking about how much she loves Afghanistan, and she just longs to go home when her country is free. So this next song, so many people remember their homeland, and even if it's not safe to go there, or they couldn't earn a living there, it's still a place that they love. And this is a song by a man named Percy French, and he was looking for work in England. Oh Mary, this London's a wonderful sight, with the people here working by day and by night. They don't sow potatoes, nor barley, nor wheat, but there's gangs of them digging for gold in the street. At least when I asked them, that's what I was told. So I just took a hand at this digging for gold. But for all that I found there, I might as well be where the mountains of morn sweep down to the sea. I believe that when writing a wish you'd expressed as to how the fine ladies of London were dressed. Well, if you believe me, when asked to a ball, they don't wear a top to their dresses at all. I've seen them myself, and you could not in truth say if they were boned for a ball or a bath. Now don't be starting them fashions, now Mary Machree, where the mountains of morn sweep down to the sea. You remember young Peter O'Loughlin, of course. Well, he's over here at the head of the force. I met him today, I was crossing the Strand, and he stopped the whole street with one wave of his hand. And there we stood talking of days that are gone, while the whole population of London looked on. But for all his great powers, he's wishful like me, to be back where the dark morn sweeps down to the sea. Oh, there's beautiful girls here, oh, never you mind, with beautiful shapes nature never designed, and lovely complexions of roses and cream. But O'Loughlin remarked, with regards to the same, that if at those colors you venture to sip, the colors might all come away on your lip. So I'll wait for the wild rose that's waiting for me, where the mountains of morn sweep down to the sea. Thank you very much. Sean, didn't you say that your grandparents were from the mountains of morn?
My father's father was from near Ross Trevor, which is in County Down, which isn't that far
from the beautiful mountains that
are
sweeping down to the sea. Wonderful.
Yes. Yeah.
No wonder you responded so well to that song. Anyway, so moving ahead to the Civil War. So, well, it says it in the song, but I'll tell you anyway. So, in Ireland at the time, I don't know if you've heard of the Irish famine, the Great Irish Famine, where millions and millions of people in around 1845 were leaving Ireland But it wasn't a famine. There was plenty of food in the land. There was wheat, there was barley, there was corn, there was salmon, there was cattle, there was dairy, there was sheep, everything you could want. It was just being shipped over to England. So the millions of people died just in the street, you know, and they tried to escape too and come. But guess what's happening in 1845? The Civil War. So they come to the ship, and they're conscripted immediately off the ship. So here's another traditional song. It's called several things: Poor Paddy's Lamentation or By the Hush. Oh, it's by the hush, me boys, and it's not to make a noise. Come listen to poor Paddy's lamentation. For I was by hunger pressed and by poverty distressed. So I took a thought to leave this Irish nation. So I sold my horse and plough and my little pig and sow, my little farm of land and I were parted. And me sweetheart Biddy McGee I'm afraid I'll never see, for I left her there that morning broken hearted. Here's to you boys, do take my advice. To America I'll have yous not be coming, for there's nothing here but war and the murdering cannons roar. And I wish I'd stayed at home in dear old Erin. Well, myself and 100 more to America sailed o'er, our fortunes to be making we were thinking. When we landed in Yankee land, they shoved a gun in every hand, saying, Paddy, you must go and fight for Lincoln. General Maher to us said, if you get shot or lose your head, every mother's son of yous will get a pension. Well, in the war I lost me leg, all I've now is a wooden peg, and my soul, it is the truth to you I'll mention. Here's to you boys, do take my advice. To America I'll have yous not be coming, for there's nothing here but war and the murdering cannons roar. And I wish I'd stayed at home in dear old Erin. Well, I would think myself in luck if I were reared on Indian buck in old Ireland, the country I delight in. But the devil I do say, God's curse on America, for I'm sure I've had enough of your hard fighting. Here's to you boys, do take my advice. To America I'll have yous not be coming, for there's nothing here but war and the murdering cannons roar. And I wish I'd stayed at home in dear old Erin. So when we rehearsed that song, Sean said to me, I've never known what reared on Indian buck meant. So I happen to know. So in the Great Hunger, it's now called, not a famine, American Indians, the Choctaw Indians, sent corn over to the Irish, and I think they sent $180 too. So they had gathered it. So Indian buck is corn mixed with oatmeal. Have it tomorrow morning for breakfast. So there's a story reported in a newspaper of a song being sung by the different sides of the army, the Union and the rebels, and on opposite sides of the Rappahannock River in Virginia. And it's Ireland Boys Hurrah. And frankly, you could sing on this one too. Would you like singing in your masks? Anyway, I don't know. Ireland boys hurrah, Ireland boys hurrah, we'll toast old Ireland, dear old Ireland, Ireland boys hurrah. Want to try that? Ireland boys hurrah, Ireland boys hurrah, we'll toast old Ireland, dear old Ireland, Ireland boys hurrah. And we're going to go into some polkas, aren't they?
Set dance.
Set dance. We went into a set dance right after called the Kilkenny Races, and we haven't heard much from them, so we're not doing a lot of this song. But we're going to do the chorus a bunch of times. Here we go. Ireland boys hurrah, Ireland boys hurrah, we'll toast old Ireland, dear old Ireland, Ireland boys hurrah. Deep in the Canadian woods we met from one bright island flown. Great is the land we tread, but yet our hearts are with our own. And ere we leave the shanty small where fades the autumn day, we'll toast old Ireland, dear old Ireland, Ireland boys hooray. Ireland boys hooray, Ireland boys hooray. We'll toast old Ireland, dear old Ireland, Ireland boys hooray. Ireland boys hooray, Ireland boys hooray. We'll toast old Ireland, dear old Ireland, Ireland boys hooray. Playing for dances. He's a famous dance fiddle guy.
Yeah, I am.
Yeah, you are.
That tune is a fancy dance tune.
Do you want to tell us what
How is that?
Played by a fancy dance player.
A set dance is a particularly choreographed dance that's for Irish flying feet. A solo dance.
Important in competitions.
And for watching for charming delightness' sake.
Yes.
So I want to tell you a little bit about my family. My grandparents came here, and my father was a little boy. And his great memory of the ship trip over was spitting over the side. That's what he did. Nobody thinks that's funny. I think that was hilarious. So anyway, when they got here, they were in the Depression. It was the middle of the Depression. So they moved in with some friends. And my grandfather couldn't find work, so my grandmother got a job as a maid at the University of Chicago in the dorms. Let's see, moving way far ahead in time, my grandfather died before I was born. He apparently was one of those people who could just pick up an instrument and play it. He was just one of those, you know, people like that. I am not like that. So my grandmother lived with us some part of the time. And when I was a little girl, I was too little to go to the movie, but my big sister was allowed to go to see Darby O'Gill and the Little People. I don't know if you remember that Disney movie. So it's a little Irish country town, and a leprechaun shows up, but the great harbinger of death, the banshee, is a terrifying, it's the ghost. Banshee means fairy woman, and it's the ghost that comes down and takes you to when you're going to die. And it was utterly terrifying to my sister. And she said she was really looking forward to getting home because her nice American mommy would say, "Oh, honey, don't worry about that. You know, Mr. Disney puts scary stuff in movies. Don't worry about a thing." But she wasn't home. But guess who was home? It was my Irish granny. And there's my sister like this, and she said, "I know, aren't they a terrible thing?" So a little bit later in life, I was the youngest, so I didn't always have all the stories completely. And there was a soup that we ate in my family that I never ate anyplace else. And because my mother was our main cook, I just assumed it was she. It was chicken, barley, and celery. And that was it. And then many, many years later, I went to Ireland and I looked up my dad's darling maiden cousins, Mamie and Tilly. And they invited me to stay for lunch or tea or supper or something like that. And lo and behold, this is on my father's side of the family, they brought out that soup and served it. And so this whole time I had just thought it was my own family's soup, but that very soup is from the north of Ireland. I'd like you to know. So when my father immigrated, but he was a little boy and he grew up here. The Depression story, I'll just think of one more thing. Two more things. So he had a little sister named Kathleen who died at age 6 of encephalitis, and then at the hospital she got pneumonia at Cook County Hospital. So that was a great tragedy on his family. And I was going to tell something else that was perhaps a little more funny, but it's lost. It's not there, so I'll tell you later if I remember. So anyway, when I think about my dad, and I watch him watching my sister's children, he gets to see his grandchildren. So there's this beautiful song that was made from letters that were found in an attic in Philadelphia, and I didn't write the composer's name down on this sheet, but I think it's in your program. So you will remember who found those letters and who made this song. This is called Kilkelly, Ireland. Kilkelly, Ireland, 1860, my dear and loving son John. Your good friend, the schoolmaster, Pat McNamara's so good as to write these words down. Your brothers have all gone to find work in England. The house is so empty and sad. The crop of potatoes is sorely infected, a third to the half of them bad. And your sister Bridget and Patrick O'Donnell, they're going to be married in June. Your mother says not to work on the railroad and be sure to come on home soon. Kilkelly, Ireland, 1870, dear and loving son John. Hello to your missus and to your 4 children, may they grow healthy and strong. Michael has got in a wee bit of trouble, I guess that he never will learn. Because of the dampness, there's no turf to speak of, and now there is nothing to burn. And Bridget is happy, you named a child for her, you know she's got 6 of her own. You say you found work, but you don't say what kind, or when you will be coming home. Kilkelly, Ireland, 1880, dear I'm sorry to give you the very sad news that your dear old mother has gone. We buried her down at the church in Kilkelly. Your brothers and Bridget were there. You don't have to worry, she died very quickly. Remember her in your prayers. It's so good to hear that Michael's returning. With money, he's sure to buy land. For the crop has been poor, and the people are selling at any price that they can. Kilkelly, Ireland, 1890, my dear and loving son John. I guess that I must be close on to 80. It's 30 years since you're gone. Because of all the money you've sent me, I'm still living out on my own. Michael has built himself a fine house, and Bridget's daughters are grown. Thank you for sending your family pictures. They're lovely young women and men. You say that you might even come for a visit. What joy to see you again. Kilkelly, Ireland, 1892. My dear brother John, I'm sorry that I didn't write sooner to tell you that Father passed on. He was living with Bridget. She says he was cheerful and healthy right down to the end. Ah, you should have seen him playing with the grandchildren of Pat McNamara, your friend. We buried him alongside of Mother down at the Kilkelly churchyard. He was a strong and a feisty old man, considering his life was so hard. And it's funny the way he kept talking about you. He called for you at the end. Oh, why don't you think about coming to visit? We'd love to see you again. Thank you. So, what's that? Is there a discussion?
Nope.
Okay. So you're going to get to sing along again to lift your heartbroken mood. Here's a song written by a man named Jack Judge, and it became a $6 million sale worldwide. It was famous, it was beloved. The first time it was heard out with soldiers singing, was some soldiers were arriving to go into the First World War from Connacht, and they were singing this song. And lo and behold, there have been German armies that sang it also. And I don't know if you've seen that heartbreaking movie, Das Boot. The German soldiers are actually singing in there, but they also were famous for singing it. It's a long way to Tipperary. Up to mighty London came an Irishman one day. As the streets are paved with gold, sure everyone was gay, singing songs of Piccadilly Strand and Leicester Square, till Paddy got excited, then he shouted to them there, It's a long way to Tipperary. It's a long way to go. It's a long way to Tipperary, to the sweetest girl I know. Farewell, Piccadilly. Goodbye, Leicester Square. Oh, it's a long, long way to Tipperary, but my heart lies there. Do you know that chorus? Have you ever heard that anywhere in your lives? It's a silly song. Paddy wrote a letter to his Irish Molly-O, saying, should you not receive it, write and let me know. If I make mistakes in spelling, Molly dear, said he, remember it's the pen that's bad, don't lay the blame on me. Are you ready? It's a long way to Tipperary, it's a long way to go. It's a long way to Tipperary, to the sweetest girl I know. Farewell, Piccadilly, so long, Leicester Square. Oh, it's a long, long way to Tipperary, but my heart lies there. Molly wrote a neat reply to Irish Paddy-O, saying Mike Mahoney wants to marry me, and so leave that Strand and Piccadilly, or you'll be to blame, for love has nearly drove me silly, hoping you're the same. Oh, it's a long way to Tipperary, it's a long way to go. It's a long way to Tipperary, to the sweetest girl I know. Goodbye, Piccadilly, farewell, Leicester Square. Oh, it's a long, long way to Tipperary, but my heart, one more time, you got it now. Long, long way to Tipperary. I just forgot how it goes. It's a long, long way to Tipperary, but my heart lies there. Thank you. Don't look ahead in your set to see what's next. That's the important message. Be where you are. Okay. There's a beautiful Irish poet named Evan Boland, and she wrote this. Like oil lamps, we put them out the back of our houses, of our minds. We had lights better than, newer than, and then a time came, this time, and now we need them. Their dread makeshift example, they would have thrived on our necessities. What they survived, we could not even live. By their lights now, it is time to imagine how they stood there, what they stood with, that their possessions may become our power. Cardboard, iron, their hardships parceled in them, patience, fortitude, long suffering in the bruise-colored dusk of the new world, and all the old songs, and nothing to lose. Oh, Danny boy, the pipes are calling from glen to glen and down the mountainside. The summer's gone and all the roses falling. It's you must go and I must buy. But come ye back when summer's shall sleep in peace until you come to me. So Fred Weatherly wrote those words to that air. That is a beautiful harp tune, from an ancient harp tune from the County Derry. And Fred Weatherly wrote that song around World War I. And the pipes are calling you to war, because they always do. So we're almost finished with this half. We're going to kind of end with, well, we have one more World War I thing, and then we're going to end with a little Tin Pan Alley that became post-Second World War so common in America. So I'm going to start with a poem written by my own dear mother-in-law. It's called An Irish-American Air. My grandmother loved to be told there was auburn left in her hair. As I'd comb it, I'd tell her I'd found some, but I never had seen any there. We'd move from the bath to the kitchen where I'd finish her beauty care. You're the only one has any patience, she'd say of her waist-length hair. He went for a sailor, she'd tell me. He went for a sailor to be. And I'd think how the blue of the jacket would have looked with his eyes, like the sea. It was safer, you see, in the Navy. We'd heard there were less of them dead. But his eyes wouldn't do for the Navy. He went down for the Army instead. They promised them all 6 months training, and the war would be over by then. But they shipped him to France in the morning, and Wilson was lying again. She hated the name, and it crackled in my hand through her ivory hair, and the teeth in her face and my comb snarled as they bit down where her memory locked in the rocking, and she'd groan into one of her tunes. We'd sit on the porch together and sing the Innish-Fallen Dragoons, Mrs. Gallagher and myself together, and we'd wait for the boys to come home. And her fist beat the side of the rocker like an Irish metronome. She'd move back and forth to the music, but she'd never stop marking the time that she would be with him somewhere, who had both been cut down in their prime. He in the joy of his manhood, and she in her pride as his mother. When he fell, the whole of her bearing told the world that all life was over. And now there's a different woman. And now there's another son. And another name in the White House. And another last war to be won. You know you're the image of Mama, says a voice from behind me, where this May in a Michigan garden, my mother puts a curl in my hair. Thank you. I just want to warn you that the second half is not very long. We're just going to take a break and get some water. So, this is a song that has become thought of as Irish. It was written by J.R. Shannon, and it had a first life in Tin Pan Alley, and then it had another life when Bing Crosby, a very famous Irish American, sang it, and so it became known as an Irish American song too, an Irish song. Here we go. You're going to know this. Sing along. Oftentimes, that was over. That was the second verse. Sorry. Will you start again? I have a whole clean.
Yes.
Over in Killarney, many years ago, me mother sang a song to me in tones so sweet and low. Just a simple Irish ditty in her good old Irish way. And I'd give the world to hear her sing that song to me today. Tura, lura, lura, tura. days I wander to that cot again. I feel her arms a-hugging me as when she held me then. And I hear her voice a-humming to me as in days of yore, when she used to rock me fast asleep outside the cabin door. Toor-a-lora, toor-a-lora, toor-a-lora. Hush now, don't you cry. Toor-a-lora, toor-a-lora. That's an Irish. You got one more in it, in you? Here we go. Toor-a-lora, toor-a-lora. Hush now, don't you cry. Toor-a-lora, toor-a-lora. That's an Irish American lullaby. Thank you so much. We're going to start this set with the boys. We're going to play some tunes for you. What are you going to play?
We're going to play a barn dance into 4 of our favorite reels. One of them is called the Chicago Reel.
So a reel, what do we say a reel is? A barn dance,
At Libby, right?
barn dance in the middle. The barn dance always has a part of the melody that goes 1, 2, hop. So play a little bit of the, go ahead. Keep going, keep going. All these things. 1, 2, hop, 1, 2, hop. That's a barn dance. Reels are kind of like that, but faster. So there's your introduction.
We should do this for a living. check it in to make sure this was actually real and you were there. And I was like, I would close my eyes and I would sort of space out or something. And I was like, whoa, what is going on?
What is this, true confessions time?
And then,
Well, thank you. That was lovely. And brings me to this next part of the show, which is about the modern, more contemporary time. And when I first moved to Chicago, and I got interested in the Irish community here, and the Irish music community here, I found that there at it was the Francis O'Neill Club, did Ceilidh dancing. And Ceilidh dancing is like square dancing, except it's Irish versions. I once told my husband, who doesn't like to dance very much, I said, no, come on, it's just like fast walking. And he came, and the first dance he saw was like this thing called the Lancers. I don't know if there's any dancers here, where everybody divides lines and the room is like this. He's like, fast dancing, yeah. I mean, fast walking, yeah. It was very tricky. So anyway, I was introduced to these lovely people and I interviewed them, and I found out their stories about their immigration here and what happened to them when they came. And one of my friends, Teresa Chosky, is a writer, and she's from Tullow in County Carlow. And it's so funny, you tell somebody that they're from and of course they know the song, Follow Me Up to Carlow. You know all the songs from wherever you're from, always. So she wrote a story about her brother, and it's kind of coming to this time right now, so I will, I'll read. There are three characters: the narrator, Joe, and Mammy Byrne. On October 22nd, 1956, our 18-year-old brother Joe didn't know what he was going to miss most about the small town of Tullow, County Carlow, when he boarded the Lufthansa plane that would take him to America. His ultimate destination to the strange new world he was going to was Chicago, Illinois, where Daddy had emigrated in 1953. Before Daddy had left Ireland, he'd promised that as soon as he was settled, he would do his very best and looked forward to the day he could bring us all out to Chicago with the goal of a better future. In spite of my reluctance to immigrate, the proper papers were obtained, and the day after I landed in Chicago, I celebrated my 19th birthday. I myself had no quarrel with Ireland, but Mammy's argument and vision for her oldest son was, if I stayed in Ireland, my future would be makeshift. With the woeful unemployment that's sweeping the country, wouldn't you be mucking about and be stony broke all your life in Ireland? Isn't it America that's beckoning and holding out a glimmer of hope for some kind of future for the youth? I'd been happy enough doing odd jobs around the town, most of which involved physical labor. I earned a few shillings here and there, helping the local farmers, herding and cleaning up after their cattle and sheep on the fair days that were held in Tullow. From age 14, I was never lazy or idle. Mammy said I was a topper at doing things, and when he put his mind to it, he could turn his hand to any job and wasn't one for sitting still when there was a job in the making. I did enjoy the jingling of the few threepenny or sixpenny bits in my pocket I'd earned from Burgess Bakery whenever Brendan Brophy gave a shout out to come lend a hand, or at Burns and Dawson's hardware shop down at the Green. When I was 14, I was driving the coal lorries for Duffy's off Hackstown, loading and hauling the 100-weight bags of coal on my back. My love for the Irish countryside was compensation in itself and far outweighed the hardships of the job. I loved driving on the scenic and meandering Carlow, Dublin, and Wexford roads, delivering the coal. With the welcome I received from the town and village people, I was always ever ready, with a handshake, and more times than not, invited into their houses for a mug of tea, scones, and a bit of a chat. Joel's daily coal deliveries on the outskirts of Tullow town took him to the quiet and scenic villages of Ballin, Boris, Kildavin, and the lovely town of Marshall with its backdrop of Mount Leinster, the Black Stairs mountain range of counties Carlow and Wexford, and the Slaney River with its panoramic views of the Wicklow Mountains. You can hear how all these places mean so much to everybody, and how I love that boy was happy to do the jobs just to watch the scenery go by. When the soft rains fell, which was almost daily, it would give a mystic and enchanting fairy tale look to the surrounding countryside, especially on the ancient ruins of Carlow Castle, nestling alongside the Barrow River, or the Gothic Duckett's Grove ruin near Carlow Town, as well as the 13th century Ballymoon Castle, along with the gentle and beautiful hillside village of Ballymurphy, where he went fishing and swimming with his school pals, Ollie McGrath and Nixie Jackman. It was in Ballymurphin's Oorch Rocks that he rescued Pat Green, a neighbor lad, from drowning, and as a result, the local policeman, Guard Thorne, wrote to the Irish Embassy to get a certificate of bravery for Joe. Soon after, our Uncle Ned Tobin, who lives in Cabra, County Dublin, and had a security job at St. James Gate, home of the Guinness Brewery, was looking into getting me a clerk position at the brewery. At the same time, I was being tutored by Brother Oren, a patrician brother from Mount St. Joseph's Monastery, preparing me for a position in the Garda Síochána. But Mammy put a halt to all that when she said, "You're not going to squander your lifetime in Ireland with B-times working when there's steady work to be had out there in America. Get that Tommy Rot nonsense about being a brewery clerk or Garda out of your head. Your passport and visa papers are in order, and your daddy, waiting for you out there in Chicago, has the airplane ticket paid, and I want to hear no more comment on the subject." In my heart and soul, I'd rather have gone to either the clerk job in Dublin or become a Garda for the town of Tullow. Now, without any contradiction in my mind, had been made up for me. For God's sake, where's the future for the youth in Ireland these days? Sure, if you were to stay here, there's a divil of a life you'd have, and nary a chance for advancement, and I'd crucify ye if I caught ye shuffling or standing around, holding up them corners down in the market square. Your whole life's ahead of you, and you won't be missing a hell of a lot when it's time for you to leave. There's many of the people in the town that would give house and all for the opportunity to emigrate. But I was not convinced, and there was no use in telling her that I would be lonesome out there. There was a short list of things I wouldn't miss, but there was a long litany of things I would hold dear. There's the walking or cycling the 9 miles out to Granny Burns' Tigeen at Billy Kinane. I would miss sitting by the fireplace, watching the open flames lap around the black crooked pot which held Granny's freshly baked soda bread, sitting there with a chunk of that bread slathered with Granny's homemade country butter, black currant or gooseberry jam, all washed down with a mug of tea. Nothing could match that. I would miss going down by the bridge, hoping to catch salmon and trout in the Slaney River. If there were none to be had, settling instead for hooking a few conger eels for a good fry that day. Sitting on the crossbar of Nixie's bike, cycling over to Town Hall, where all would be gathered for a half-set and ceilidh music, especially when Mrs. Mulhall from Mill Street brought along her fiddle. Joe wondered if he would find anything like that in America, such as listening for Tommy Ding-Dong Nolan tolling the Mass and Angelus bell in the church and the Most Holy Rosary. Tommy's was well known in town. His job was to wind the chapel clock once a week and ring the bells 3 times each weekday and 4 times on the weekends. Joe feared there wouldn't be any Tommy Nolan ringing bells out in America. Joe often thought if he had a penny farthing for all the times Tommy had rung the church bell, and if he was doing his sums right, it must be over 500,000 times. By now, Joe would have had his fortune made, and thoughts of immigration could be put on the shelf. Chosky, who wrote the song, would talk about the tunes that she loved and the beautiful places where she lived, and how the songs always brought it. That poem in the beginning when I said, and all the old songs, they're really longing for that. And once again, I just have to say, I love that the 14-year-old boy loved going on the trip so he could look at the scenery while he was delivering coal. Here's another Even Boland poem. The bickering of vowels on the buses, the clicking thumbs and the big hips of the navy-skirted ticket collectors with their crooked seams brought it home to me. Exile, ration book pudding, bowls of dripping in the fixed smiles of the school pianist playing Iolanthe, Land of Hope and Glory, and John Peel. I didn't know what to hold, to keep. At night, filled with some malaise of love for what I'd never known I had, I fell asleep and let the moment pass. The passing moment had become night of clipped shadows, freshly painted houses, the garden eddying in dark and heat, my children half awake, half asleep, airless, humid dark. Leaf noise, the stirrings of a garden before rain, a hint of storm behind the risen moon. We are what we have chosen. Did I choose to, in a strange city, in another country, on nights in a north-facing bedroom, waiting for the sleep that never did restore me as I'd hoped to what I'd lost? Let the world I knew become the space between the words that I had by heart and all the other speech that always was becoming the language of the country that I came to in 1951. Barely gelled, a freckle-faced 6-year-old, overdressed and sick on the plane, when all of England to an Irish child was nothing more than what you'd lost, and how was the teacher in London convent, who, when I produced I amn't in the classroom, turned and said, "You're not in Ireland now." I interviewed so many people who had immigrated to Chicago in the 50s and 60s and 70s, and there was so many of them came from farms where they had dirt floors in their houses. There was no electricity, and they cooked over a fire, and then they landed in Chicago. And so many, one of them got a job at the parish rectory to answer the phone. She'd never answered a phone. She'd never seen a phone or held one or worked one. There was a charming, you hear stories of the waitresses at Stouffer's on Randolph Street. So many of the young Irish women who had come, and the people loved to go there just to hear their beautiful soft accents and to be waited on by the Irish girls. And there was also a group of them at Marshall Fields. So the young men came and very often found work apprenticed in the trades. And I was talking to one guy. There were wonderful music halls. That's one of the reasons I wanted Sean to play that nice waltz, is because there were music halls in Chicago. And the Irish people went to the music halls dancing, and that's where they ran into each other and communicated and had their networks and everything. Cayman's, the Holiday Ballroom, the Irish Village, the Atlantic. And one of the men I interviewed said, "Yeah, it was really great. I got an apprentice job at night, and I was going downtown, and I'm walking away this way to my job, and I'm looking over and all my friends are going to go dancing to music like that beautiful waltz that we heard." They'd never seen an elevator. They didn't have electricity on their farm, so it was a shocking experience. So it was nice when they came and somebody in the family was already here that they could join. I have a friend in the 70s, maybe in the 80s, who looked like her sister. And she brought her sister's passport. And she was stopped at customs, of course, and she talked them into letting her in, which I always just love. There's a little bit of a song called From Clare to Here, and it shows just how much the difference is from being here to being at home. way from Clare to here. It's a long, long way from Clare to here. Oh, it's a long, long way. It gets longer every day. It's a long, long way from Clare to here. The only time I feel alright is when I'm into drinking. My mom would like a letter home, but I'm too tired for thinking. It's a long, long way from Clare to here. It's a long, long way from Clare to here. Oh, it's a long, long way. It gets further day by day. It's a long, long way from Clare to here. Yes. So there's I talked to you about the traditional style of kind of ornamented singing that's a cappella, and there's a song about Galway Bay that is written in that style, but it was written contemporaneously by Francis Fahey. And the reason I've chosen to sing this is because this guy comes to Illinois, and Illinois is in the song, and of course, he's lived here, he's made his life here, but he wants to go back, at least his soul, to go flying over Galway Bay at the end, if he can't go back there to be buried. So, am I just talking about it? Okay. It's far away I am today from scenes I roamed a boy, and long ago, the hour I know, I first saw Illinois. Nor time, nor waters wide could wean my heart away. Forever true, 'twill fly to you, my own dear Galway Bay. My chosen bride is by my side, her brown hair turning gray. Our daughter roses like her grows, as April dawned today. Our eldest son, our chosen one, his father's pride and stay. With gifts like these, I'd live at ease beside you, Galway Bay. Had I youth's blood and hopeful mood and heart of fire once more, for all the gold that earth could hold, I'd never leave your shore. I'd live content, whate'er God sent, midst neighbors old and gray, and leave my bones 'neath churchyard stones beside you, Galway Bay. The blessings of a poor old man be with you night and day. The blessings of a poor old man whose heart will soon be clay. 'Tis all the heaven I ask of God upon my dying day, my soul to soar forevermore above you, Galway Bay. going to leave you with a couple more things here. Here's one of America's most distinguished poets who had such an influence on the language, Robert Creeley. And he's written, anybody know Robert Creeley's work? This is called Teresa's Friends. From the outset, charmed by the soft, quick speech of those men and women, Teresa's friends, and the church she went to, the other, not the white plain Baptist I tried to learn God in, or later, in Boston, the legend of being Irish, the lore, the magic, the violence, the comfortable or uncomfortable drunkenness, but mostly that endlessly present talking, as Mr. Keneally's, the ironmonger, sat so patient in Cronin's bar and told me sad, emotional stories with the quiet of an elder does talk to a younger man. Then, when at last I was 21, my mother finally told me, indeed, the name Creeley was Irish, and the heavens opened, birds sang, and the trees and the ladies spoke with wondrous voices. The power and the glory of poetry was at last mine. I see that rang a little true to you there, Sean. Was it the talk? What was the endless talking? So anyway, I want to thank you so much again for coming out to hear the show. And I would like to say this last song, and though I'm telling the story from my own perspective, it's really true. Everybody, I know other people who came here from refugees of war when they were children and had to go to schools and had to, it happens all the time. So let's have empathy and kindness and understanding. So I'm going to close out and leave you with a song called My Grandfather's Immigrant Eyes. Ooh, I almost fell off that chair singing to it. I think I'll stand up. Never mind. Then I won't fall down. Okay. Old Ellis Island was swarming like a scene from a costume ball, decked out in the colors of Europe and on fire with the hope of it all. There my father's own father stood huddled with the tired and hungry and scared turn of the century pilgrims, bound by the dreams that they shared. They were standing in lines just like cattle, poked and prodded and shoved. Some were one desk away from sweet freedom, some were torn from someone they loved. Through the sprawling Tower of Babel came a young man confused and alone, determined and bound for America, carrying everything that he owned. Sometimes when I look in my grandfather's immigrant eyes, I see that day reflected. I can't hold my feelings inside. I see starting with nothing and working hard all of his life. So don't take it for granted, say grandfather's immigrant eyes. Now he rocks and he stares out the window, but his eyes are just as clear as the day he sailed through the harbor. Came ashore on the island of tears. My grandfather's days are numbered, but I won't let his memory die, for he gave me the gift of this country and the look in his immigrant eyes. Sometimes when I look in my grandfather's immigrant eyes, I see that day reflected. I can't hold my feelings inside. I see starting with nothing, working hard all of his life. So don't take it for granted, say grandfather's immigrant eyes. If you're not a Native American, you're an immigrant. Thank you so much. Thank you. Sean Cowan, Jesse Marie. I want to thank Daniel Chattel. I want to thank our camera crew and Phil, our sound guy, everybody. And thank you for coming. Good night.
Good night.
Danny boy, the pipes are calling from glen to glen and down the mountainside. The summer's gone and all the roses falling. It's you must go and I must bide. But come ye back when summer's in the meadow, or when the valley's hushed and white with snow. I'll be here in sunshine or in shadow. Oh, Danny boy, I love you so. And when ye come and all the flowers are dying, and I am dead, as dead I well may be, ye'll come and find the place where I am lying.